everyone, welcome to Homeschool. So we are in the chapter 2, that is biological classification, and in the previous videos we have already seen the photosynthetic protists. So today we are starting with the protozoans as well as the saprophytic protists. We shall first see with the saprophytic protists. So an example for the saprophytic protists is slime molds, and as the name suggests, saprophytic. What does saprophytic means? Saprophytic means the organisms which feed on or which are dependent on dead and decaying organic matter are called as the saprophytic organisms. And here we are studying about the saprophytic protists. I'll write it. Saprophytic protists. And the example or the organisms which we are going to study under the saprophytic protists are slime molds. Slime molds. So what are the characteristics of the slime molds? As the name suggests, saprophytic, they should be definitely the decomposers because they feed on the dead and decaying organic matter. Hence, these organisms are decomposers in the environment. That is, they feed on dead and decaying matter. These are decomposers because they feed on dead and decaying matter. And most of them or majority of them are unicellular. They are unicellular. And usually what happens is these unicellular organisms will form an aggregation, or those all unicellular organisms will come together and they form one complex which is called as the plasmodium. Let's imagine this is one unicellular slime mold. Fine. And such kind of many unicellular slime molds will come together to form a aggregation like this. To form one complex like this. And this complex is called as the plasmodium. It's called as plasmodium. So, this is the aggregation of unicellular. I'll write it here. It is aggregation of unicellular slime molds. Unicellular slime molds. Then, next characteristics. The reproduction. So, the reproduction is mainly the vegetative kind of reproduction, and the vegetative mode which is involved here is the fragmentation. We will write it. Reproduction. Under the reproduction, the first mode is the vegetative reproduction. I'll write the short forms. Vegetative reproduction. Under vegetative reproduction, the mode which is selected here is the fragmentation. Fragmentation. So what happens in the fragmentation? So we have seen a plasmodium aggregation here. What happens? Imagine this plasmodium aggregation breaks like this. Okay, it is breaking down. So when this breaks down, this part comes out as a separate aggregation and this part comes out as a separate aggregation. And the part which has come out as a separate, this can grow into one more new aggregation, and this part can grow into another new aggregation or new plasmodium complex. So fragmentation is we have a complex or we have an organism, a small part of that will come out and that new part will start growing into a organism or one complex is called as fragmentation. Similarly here, there are chances that this aggregation may break down or one single cell may come out like this from here. one single cell may come out, and that single cell may grow into, or it may form an aggregation. So a part of that plasmodium is coming out to form a new complex is called as the fragmentation. So that is the first mode of reproduction. Moving on to the second mode of the reproduction, that is asexual reproduction. Asexual mode. So asexual mode is mainly by sclerotia formation. Sclerotia. What is sclerotia? See, in this unit, we will just speak about this single cell here now. In the single cell, we have cytoplasm inside. Fine. So, a small amount of cytoplasm or a very little amount of cytoplasm will be there, and surrounding that cytoplasm, a hard layer will be formed and it will stay for a longer duration. We will take one scenario. Let's imagine there is some adverse condition going on, or some extreme condition is going on, which is not supportive for the sustainability of these slime molds. So at that time, what happens? This cytoplasm which is present inside. So here a layer will become loosen up. Fine. This layer will loosen up, and one more hard layer will be surrounding this cytoplasm. Very little amount of cytoplasm will be there, and surrounding that a very hard layer will be formed and it gets dispersed. So this formation of the hard complex is called as sclerotia, and that is when the favorable conditions will be back. At that time, it again grows into an organism. Fine. Next, one more is the formation of the spores here. Spore formation. Spore formation. So here again, the spores during the abnormal conditions or adverse climatic conditions or extreme conditions, what happens? The organism or the slime molds will form certain spores, and those spores are formed in a structure called as sporangia. They are formed in the structure called as sporangia, and these spores which are formed in sporangia are extremely resistant to any adverse climatic conditions. They cannot be harmed so easily, and these spores will be dispersed by air currents usually. Usually that happens in case of the plant seeds and everything, isn't it? Or the pollens also, they also get dispersed in the same way. Similarly, here the spores, when they are in the sleep mode, or when they are in the sleep mode or dormancy period, usually at that time, there are chances that either by air currents or any other external aids, they can get carried away to some other places. Okay, so saprophytic protist, a good example or the organism which comes under this is the slime molds, and these slime molds are majorly the decomposers, because as the name suggests, they are saprophytic in nature, hence they should depend on dead and decaying matter, and they are unicellular in nature, and these unicellular slime molds or organisms will form an aggregation which is called as the plasmodium. And moving on to the reproduction, majorly the reproduction takes place through vegetative reproduction, that is the fragmentation mode, or it can also take place by the formation of sclerotia or by the formation of the spores in the structure called as sporangia. Clear? Next one, we have in the last video we had seen the photosynthetic protists, and now we have seen the saprophytic protists. Next is the protozoan protists. protozoan protists are majorly heterotrophic and they are parasitic in nature. They are heterotrophic. What does heterotrophic means? Heterotrophs are the organisms which depend on other organisms or autotrophs for their food are called as heterotrophs. They are heterotrophic in nature and they are parasitic also. They are parasitic. So parasites means they are usually pathogenic or they are dependent on the living host. They are dependent on the living cells. Like the saprophytes, they don't feed on dead and decaying matter. They usually feed or they are dependent on the living organisms or living host. Apart from them, apart from these two characteristics, these organisms can also be holozoic, symbiotic or saprophytic in some cases. Alright, they can be holozoic. What is holozoic? Holozoic is ingestion directly. Ingestion of the food and the processing of the food internally is called as holozoic. And or they can be symbiotic. They can be symbiotic. Symbiotic is two organisms which are staying together by a mutual understanding is called as the symbiotic relationship. Both are being mutually benefited. Both the organisms are mutually benefited in the relationship. That is called as symbiosis. So, it is holozoic, it is symbiotic, as well as these organisms can also be saprophytic. They can also be saprophytic. But very important thing what you have to remember here is there is no photosynthesis at all. There is no photosynthesis at all. They are heterotrophs, parasites, holozoic, symbiotic or saprophytic in some cases, but there is no photosynthesis at all. Fine. Then these organisms have various locomotory organs. Actually, there are few organs or few appendages which help in the movement of these organisms, and based on the type of the organ which helps in the movement, the protozoan protists are being classified into several groups. So we will see few important groups now. Alright. So first one is the amoeboid protozoan protists. As the name suggests, amoeboid means the example should be the amoeba only. Amoeboid protozoan protists. Characteristics of these amoeboid organisms. So, these are mainly present in the fresh water or marine water or sea water and the moist air. They are present in fresh water, sea water and moist air. The organ or the locomotory organ which is present here is pseudopodia. It is pseudopodia, and the group of organisms which have pseudopodia as their locomotive organs are called as the Sarcodina. They are called as Sarcodina. Sarcodina are the organisms which have pseudopodia as their locomotive organs. Fine. And then they have silica. They have silica shells on them. They have silica shells on them. And as I said, the best example is the amoeba itself. So how does the pseudopodia look like? So let's take one example, or we just draw it. Okay, and these outgrowths or outer appendages, whatever, are being called as pseudopodia. These are pseudopodia, and inside the pseudopodia again we have cytoplasm and everything, but here the cytoplasm is divided into two types of cytoplasm. The outermost cytoplasm here, all right, I'll just draw it in a fine, I'll draw it completely. Okay, so the outer cytoplasm is usually like very dense cytoplasm. It is a gel-like cytoplasm. This outer one is gel-like or it is dense. Whereas this inner cytoplasm, okay, this inner cytoplasm is all solution-like. It is quite watery or it is thin. It is not that like it is viscous in nature, and this is like gel-like consistency. The outer one is quite dense and the inner one is quite thin, and based on the need of the condition, they usually can interchange also. The solution can also turn to be a gel. The gel can also be turned to be a solution. Fine. These are interchangeable. Then we have a centrally located nucleus. A centrally located nucleus, and then we have contractile vacuole. We have contractile vacuole, which is very important in case of amoeba. This mainly helps in the osmoregulation. It helps in osmoregulation. Okay, the function of that contractile vacuole is the osmoregulation. I hope you have understood this. We will quickly revise the characters. These are heterotropic, parasitic, holozoic, they are symbiotic, and in some cases they are saprophytic also. But however, there is no photosynthesis in case of the protozoal protists. Fine. And based on the locomotive organs which are present in those organisms, they are divided into they are categorized into various groups. And the first one is the amoeboid protozoan protists. These are usually present in the fresh water, sea water, as well as the moist air. And the organ which is present here for the locomotion is the pseudopodia, and pseudopodia having organisms are being called as the Sarcodina. Okay, they are placed under the group called as Sarcodina, and the presence of silica shells is one distinguishing character of the amoeboid protozoan protists. And to see the diagram how exactly it looks like, so they are irregular in shape. Fine, they are irregular in shape, and these outgrowths are the pseudopodia. They help in the locomotion as well as they help in the capture of the food. Then the cytoplasm inside is usually categorized into two types of cytoplasm, the outer and the inner one. The outer one is quite thick or dense in nature, and the inner one is quite thin in nature. It has a centrally located nucleus and it has one contractile vacuole which helps in the osmoregulation. Second one is flagellated protozoan protists. So the characteristics here are, these are again free living and they are parasitic. Those are free living and they are parasitic. Parasitic means they are dependent on the living host, and the speciality here is these are endoparasites. These are endoparasites. Endoparasites which thrive inside the organism are called as the endoparasites. Fine. And as the name suggests, the presence of flagella can be seen. We can see only one flagella sometimes or more also. So, one or more flagella are present. And some examples to quote here in case of the flagellated protozoan protists are, the first one is Trypanosoma. Trypanosoma is a genus and the species is Gambians. Trypanosoma gambians, which is usually having single flagella. It is uniflagellate. It is uniflagellate, and this causes the disease of sleeping sickness. It causes sleeping sickness. Another example is, this is example number 1, this is example number 2. Leishmania is another example. Leishmania is a genus and this causes Kala Azar. It causes Kala Azar. So these are the two examples for the flagellated protozoal protists. Okay, the two examples are Trypanosoma gambians, which causes the sleeping sickness, and the second one is the Leishmania, which causes Kala Azar usually. Fine, clear? First one which we had seen was the amoeboid protozoan protist. Second one is the flagellated protozoan protist. Third one is ciliated protozoan protist. Again, to see the characteristics here, these are also aquatic in nature. These are aquatic in nature, and as the name suggests, the organs or the parts which are present here to help for the locomotion are cilia. But cilia will not only help for the movement, but it also helps for the capturing of the food in case of these organisms. And the best example to be studied here is Paramecium. Paramecium. Sometimes even people write it as Paramecium, and sometimes we get to see it as Paramecium, Paramecium. Just see how it goes in your books. Fine. So Paramecium, and we will first see the structure of the Paramecium, how it goes. It is very famously called as the slipper organism, isn't it? Because the shape resembles the footwear. Something like this. All right, you can just make the depressions more. Okay. And all over the body there are small appendages like this. There are small appendages like this, and these appendages are called as cilia. These are cilia, and here at one particular region we get to see a tube-like ingrowth here. Fine, a tube-like ingrowth, and this tube-like ingrowth is called as gullet. It is called as gullet. Attached to this gullet, we have one storage organ like this. Attached to this gullet only, we have a storage organ. It is called as food vacuole. This is food vacuole. Fine. This is the gullet. It is a tube-like structure which intakes the food. So what happens here is, these cilia which are present here also some small outgrowths will be there like this. what they do is, these outer cilia or outer appendages will usually push the food inside, and these small appendages will furthermore help the food to enter and get stored in the food vacuole. Fine. So cilia is mainly for the locomotion and pushing of the food or capturing of the food inside the gullet. So ciliated protozoan protists, they are aquatic in nature and they have cilia as their locomotory organs, as well as to intake the food. Fine. The example here is Paramecium. The next, another fourth group of the protozoan protist is the sporozoans. I will write them here. This is the third one. The fourth one is sporozoan protozoan protists. And again, these are also endoparasites. These are also endoparasites. A very good example for this is the Plasmodium. Everyone knows what Plasmodium causes. What does it cause? It causes malaria. Alright. Malaria, malaria vivax, malaria falciparum, malaria ovale. So all these are the Plasmodium. They all belong to the Plasmodium group only. Plasmodium is the genus and Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium falciparum, Plasmodium ovale are the species here. Okay, these vivax, falciparum and ovale are species. Plasmodium is the genus. So malaria can be caused by vivax, malaria can be caused by falciparum, malaria can be caused by ovale also. Okay, then these particular organisms are digenetic. Fine, these are digenetic. I'll write it here. They are digenetic in nature. What exactly it means? So here we have this word di. It means something as two. It shows it is having some two kinds of genetics. Fine. What is that? It means to complete its life cycle. For example, if Plasmodium wants to complete its life cycle, then it requires dihost. It requires two hosts here. So the one is a primary host, another one is a secondary host. In case of the Plasmodium, the primary host will be female Anopheles. Female Anopheles mosquito is the primary host where usually it reproduces, and the secondary host is the human which it infects. Alright, so the organisms which usually take two hosts to complete their life cycles are called as the digenetic organisms, and these sporozoans are digenetic in nature. Clear? So we have seen all the four groups of the protozoan protists. The first one is amoeboid, second one is flagellated, third one is ciliated, and the fourth one is the sporozoans. Apart from that, so these are the protozoan protists. Apart from that, we have also seen the saprophytic protists and the photosynthetic protists. So this completes the kingdom Protista. So we have, by now we have completed two kingdoms. The first kingdom is kingdom Monera and the second one is kingdom Protista. So in the next part, we will take up the third kingdom, that is the kingdom Fungi. Okay. Alright, so by this we will stop the class. Do subscribe the channel and watch the videos.